Hello, and welcome to Fundamentals of People Management, Module 6. Whoa, wait. What's that there? I missed a button. I missed the last look, and I missed a button. You're going to be staring at that thing the whole video, so yeah, we're going to reshoot this. Hey there, welcome to Fundamentals of People Management, Module 6. I'm Dr. Lon Schiffbauer, and today we are talking about leading and directing. In our previous module, we talked about setting goals, objectives, and expectations. And that's great, that's important, but that's just the beginning. Now that we've set these objectives, we need to go reach them. And that means leading and directing our employees in this effort. Now, of course, this series is about fundamentals of people management. So this sort of begs the question, what's the difference between management and leadership? Let's talk about that. Each is a distinct skill set, management and leadership, and yet each is also a different side of the same coin. Both have the same mission to bring people together such that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, but how it goes about doing this is a little bit more nuanced. At the end of the day, the best leaders are great managers, and the best managers, well, they're great leaders. And in this module, Leading and Directing, we're going to discuss this nuance. And the place we're going to start is by talking about communicating a compelling vision. As a general rule, you and I, people, we only apply ourselves, really bring our passions to the table when we feel like what we do matters. And so this is why it's so important for leaders to communicate a compelling vision, one that the employees can get behind and really dedicate themselves to achieving. Now, you might say, why do I need to communicate a compelling vision? I pay them to do the work. That's why they're here. They're here to make money. I pay them. They should do what I tell them to do, whether there's a compelling vision or not. Yeah, that doesn't work. Yes, you pay your employees, but that's simply the cost of admission. You now have access to their skills and competencies and experience. But now, the degree to which they bring these skills, competencies, and experience, this is contingent on the vision. Now, this is actually pretty darn tricky. It's not as easy as it sounds. Different people are inspired by a different vision, a different mission statement, a different raison d'etre. For example, the C-suite employees, we're talking the executives, the CEO, CFO, COO, all these folks, their compensation is directly tied to the performance of the company. So as the company does well and profits go up, their compensation goes up. Therefore, it's really easy for the C-suite to get all inspired by the idea of the company doing really well and the shareholders being happy and all that stuff. Okay, that's great for them. But for you and me, we're talking about the lower echelons. Okay, yeah, sure, we want the company to do well, but our compensation, our reward, our recognition is not always directly tied to the performance of the company. We need to have a different vision. And as a people manager, it's your job to help communicate that vision. And sometimes you're working at odds with your C-suite as they're getting all fixated on company performance and profits and shareholders and all that. Your people, their interest and their energies may start to drift. Yeah, you need to know how to bring them back to center. And this means knowing how to communicate a compelling vision to your people, talking to them about the things that matter to them. This means you need to have an intimate understanding of their needs, their interests, their desires, their values, their principles. These are the things that drive them forward. These are the intrinsic motivators that inspire them to bring more than just simply their warm bodies to the workplace. And incidentally, this isn't manipulation. They want to give their best. We thrive. Actually, we're going to talk more about this in the next module. But when we are motivated, when we are inspired, when we feel like we are doing something bigger than ourselves and really are contributing in a meaningful way, we get excited. We love to bring our best performance to the workplace. So when you, as a people manager, help communicate a compelling vision, you're giving them a reason to give you their very best. Okay, so communicating a compelling vision is an important part of leadership, one that you will need to exercise as a people manager. The next thing you will need to do is make the strategic tactical. Now, it's the job of the CEO, the C-suite, all of his or her folks, to communicate a strategic vision for the organization. We're talking about strategic objectives at the very highest level. These are often looking out 5 or even 10 years into the future. Now, that's their job, and they're doing it well, hopefully, right? Nevertheless, these strategic visions, they tend to be a little, vague, ambiguous, very abstract because you can't see into the future perfectly. They are working with imperfect information and so are trying to formulate the best possible strategies, knowing that things are always moving. It's a dynamic environment. Okay, that's fine. That's their job. Nevertheless, this doesn't always translate well to, us folks, right? We need to understand at a tactical level, what do we need to actually do to reach this perhaps somewhat ambiguous, vague strategic direction that has been fed to us by the strategic leadership. This is your job as a people manager. You need to understand the vision that the C-suite is handing down, and it comes down through your vice presidents and directors and so forth. But then you need to translate it into tactical, specific, measurable, attainable actions, sounds familiar, right? That your employees can then execute against to reach this vision. You can't just say, this is what the CEO said, so get to work. They're going to be like, yeah, what work do I do? So for example, let's say that your leadership says we are going to win in the marketplace based on price. We will beat the competition at the price level. Okay, fine, great. But what does that mean to your people? Well, now you, with the help of your people, need to figure out how are you going to lower costs and control costs while not sacrificing quality or output, things like this. These are tactical responses to the strategic direction. The next form of leadership that you will provide as a people manager is providing direction, coaching, and inspiration. Now, this is important because as a people manager, one of your biggest challenges is going to be figuring out when to give your employees really specific, clear, we're talking tactical, almost doing it for them level of direction, micromanaging, versus simply pointing them in the right direction, making sure that they have all the resources they need to be successful, and then setting them loose and staying out of their way. These are two ends of the spectrum that you are going to have to figure out how to navigate based on the needs of the organization, the task at hand, and your employees. You get what I'm saying. A new, perhaps less experienced employee is going to require a lot more specific direction and help to get the job done, such that it may feel like you're hovering over them a great deal to make sure that they're executing to schedule as you need them to. On the other hand, you also know that if you're dealing with an experienced employee who really knows their job and probably actually should know it better than you, then you don't want to get in their way. You want to make sure that they know which direction to go, but you're just kind of saying, hey, go for it. With this sort of employee, you want to tell them what needs to be done, but not how to do it. If you start to tell them how to do their job, there's no better way to demotivate an employee. Now, this is direction, but remember, we're talking about direction, coaching, and inspiration. So let's touch upon coaching. Coaching is different than direction. Whereas direction is really about doing the job and executing to expectations, coaching is really helping the employee develop a little bit more along the lines of employee development versus employee training, which we talked about in a previous module, and to overcome sort of the soft skill challenges that they run up against. This should be a collaborative process, one that involves unlocking their full potential and really helping the employee thrive in their position and in the work they're doing with their coworkers. This probably sounds a little bit like mentorship, and yes, there's a very correlated Venn diagram between coaching and mentorship, and that's part of your job as a leader, as a people manager. Finally, in this trio of direction coaching, we have inspiration. Now, inspiration is what really allows an employee to bring their very best to the game. This is how you unlock their greatness. The better you can connect the work to things that the employee cares about, the more you will inspire the employee to perform at their very best. Now, this starts to stray into motivation, which is going to be in our next module, so I'm going to just leave that right there. Finally, as a people manager exercising leadership, you need to understand how to empower your employees to practice informed risk-taking. Risk-taking is important for a myriad of reasons. To begin with, yes, you are providing direction to your employees. However, you don't want to provide direction at every single juncture. At some point, they need to make decisions for themselves. And along with decisions comes risk. So you need to help your employees understand at what level should they be practicing informed risk-taking and making decisions for themselves, and at what point should they escalate to you or somebody higher. Empowering employees with this sort of ability to practice informed risk-taking also helps us develop our employees. Remember, we want to develop our employees so that they will continue to be valuable in the future, perhaps at higher and higher tiers within the company. This means developing their critical thinking skills, their decision-making skills, their problem-solving skills. All of this involves informed risk-taking. So if you're going to help them develop these skills that you want them to bring to the table, you need to give them the room to sometimes make mistakes. Now, you need to understand mistakes are part of the game. This is how we learn. Failure is just one step toward success. So you need to make sure that you communicate to your employees, both verbally and in practice, that informed risk-taking and the failures and mistakes and sort of little pitfalls that we run into, that's okay. This is all part of the learning and growing process. Ultimately, it's about giving your employees the space and autonomy they need to do their job, the job that you are paying them to do, to the best of their abilities. And, well, if all you're going to do is treat them like a trained monkey that just pushes buttons, you're not going to get the best out of them. Get out of their way and let them do their thing. Now, as I alluded to before, all of this starts to then stray into the motivation space. And that's what we're going to talk about in our next module, how to motivate our employees to perform at their very best. So I hope you'll stick around. This is an important topic, and I want you to get the most out of this. All right? Hey, thanks a lot for joining, and until we talk again, have a fantastic day.